Are you gutsy? Do you have big dreams, big goals? Maybe even some people have told you that they are crazy goals. Gutsy Travels. We are a travel show with a twist. We have inspiring interviews with gutsy people around the country who have been gutsy. This is where you want to be. Be inspired to be gutsy yourself.
Bison traffic jam. There's the bison in Yellowstone National Park. Hi everyone. Today I am in Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park was established in March 1872 by Ulysses S. Grant, who was the president at the time, to preserve this beautiful piece of land in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. So behind me is Old Faithful. It is a geyser that goes off faithfully pretty regularly. This is the Old Faithful Lodge that was built in 1873. Yellowstone National Park is only about 4 hours away from Bozeman, Montana. And so when you think of Bozeman, Montana, Yellowstone comes up as a place to visit. So that's why I wanted to show you some of Yellowstone. And today, our guest, she was really gutsy 30 years ago when what she did was considered illegal in some of the states here in the United States. So then it was even more gutsy because, interestingly enough, today it is much more accepted, and with the pandemic we just went through, even more so, but not 30 years ago. So she was really gutsy. Her name is Michelle Dornath-Mohr, and she's got an interesting story. So come with us. Let's hear about her gutsy story. And now I am in Bozeman, Montana, with a friend of mine who has been so gutsy in her life, and her name is Michelle Dornath-Mohr. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me in your house.
Oh, pleasure.
You and I have gotten to know each other for a little bit over the last 4 years?
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Wow, time flies.
More than 5 years now, yeah.
And I've heard many stories from you about raising 4 daughters in
Correct.
3 different states.
Yes.
And what you did with that. But before we go there, how do you define gutsy?
So I define gutsy as getting out of your comfort zone and doing something that is a little bit outrageous for you. You know, it's a little bit adventurous. It's going against your status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so something that's just not normal for you.
But when we were talking about you doing the interview,
Mm-hmm.
we had talked about the way you've raised your daughters, which I think is super gutsy. And you told me, it's not so gutsy.
Yeah, I didn't think it was really gutsy until Chrystina started telling me she thought it was. So what I did is I homeschooled my 4 daughters starting in 1991. And I didn't even think of it as gutsy. It was just something that seemed right. And I thought about it, or I guess I learned about homeschooling the day before my oldest daughter was born. This guy in my office was just talking about it, and I'm like, I've never even heard of that before, right? Homeschooling, yeah. And in that instant that I heard about it, I realized that was my future, was homeschooling my children.
And what did you do to find out how to homeschool?
Well, this was before the internet.
Okay, even harder then.
Right, it was before the internet. Fortunately, when babies are born, you don't have to do a lot. You can just trust your instincts and listen to them. And they tell you what to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the way I did. I figured my kids would just tell me what they needed, right? They cry, you feed them, you diaper them, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's just how I continued to homeschool all my kids. When they needed something, I just provided what they needed.
Okay. And then what about with schools and what they were telling you, public schools and such, and family and friends?
Yeah, so public schools back then were not supportive at all of homeschooling.
And that was how many years ago?
So that was 30 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, 31 years ago. They were not supportive of homeschooling.
Okay.
Matter of fact, in some states, it was illegal to homeschool. Fortunately, I started in New Jersey, and it was
legal there.
And the only thing we had to do was, the burden of proof was on somebody else to prove we weren't educating our children. So it was very easy to homeschool.
Okay.
And so we just started learning, right? And when the kids, you just play counting games and letter games and read stories and do gymnastics and right? They just learn. You take them on hikes and talk about leaves and watch the butterflies.
Okay.
Yeah,
you did a lot of adventures with the girls.
We did a lot of adventures, especially after we got to Alabama. So after, all the girls were born in New Jersey, and then we moved to Alabama and lived on this
Four girls. Okay.
Yeah. 4 girls in 5.5 years.
Wow.
So really close together.
Very close together.
Yeah. And but then we moved to this little acreage. We had 11 acres. And so there was so much to do there. We could go look at the tadpoles in the pond and watch the deer come up and the birds and identify birds. Then we bought a little camper van and we just traveled all over the country.
So many people have been doing that with the pandemic.
Right. Well, we did it before it was a trend.
Yes, before it was a thing to do. Okay. And of course, you still did statistics and spelling and all of those basics.
Right. So when you're deciding to homeschool, right, you can choose, especially now it's really easy, but back then there were a few canned programs you could use.
Okay.
Right. So you could do that. I decided not to do that. I just waited till each kid wanted it. As an engineer, I knew my math and my science. So we just made up stuff as we went. It was easy
to teach them because of your background, your experience. And then there were social activities that homeschoolers do.
Oh my gosh. That's one of the biggest myths in homeschooling, is that the homeschoolers don't have socialization. We actually have too much socialization.
Okay, what's too much?
So too much was, well, by the time we got to Alabama, we had to have cover schools. That was the law then. You had to go to a private school that was associated with a church or something.
Okay.
We call them cover schools. And the cover schools often had activities, and they would have activities every single day.
Oh, wow.
So we would go visit the dam, or we'd go take walks to the
all
marsh.
Together.
Yeah, as a group.
Okay.
Yeah, or we'd go, explore the depot, or there'd be a class in, carving pumpkins or eating edible flowers, right? And doing we learned to recane chairs. And so it was like activities every day. Plus, my kids were in karate and were involved in church activities, and they played instruments and were in orchestra. And
the instruments, you can see lots of instruments around the house. Very much a musical house.
Yeah. So, I mean, we finally started what we called Stay-at-Home Mondays. So the girls would have a chance to explore, their academics.
The studies.
Yeah.
I have had the joy and pleasure of meeting Chrystina Katz a few weeks ago, and she has changed my life in that very short period of time.
Chrystina Katz helped me through that pivot and those major life changes.
Chrystina, thank you so much for allowing me to use this planner, giving it to me because it's made all the difference in my life.
Chrystina offers coaching, presentations on how to manage your time.
That has been very valuable and life-changing for me and my business.
I have been more organized than I've been in years.
I feel like such a weight is lifted off my shoulders.
I'm organized. I have a to-do list, and so when I complete the task, I check it off, and it feels really good.
I have gone to the next level, and I'm super excited. Thank you, Chrystina.
Thank you, Chrystina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, and you have to talk to Chrystina. She's amazing.
Whenever we do something gutsy, we're going to encounter challenges.
Definitely.
So tell us about the ones that you encountered.
Okay, so I would say the biggest challenge I had as a homeschool mom was all the burden was on me. So I was constantly questioning myself, am I doing it right? Am I doing enough? Am I missing something? You know, if you have a bad teacher, the other teachers can compensate.
Yeah.
Right. But no,
you were the only teacher.
It was all on me. Right. And so, yeah, I was really nervous about that. And of course, there wasn't always a lot of support from the community or your family or your friends about homeschooling, or even other homeschool parents. Like if you didn't use the same curriculum or you weren't doing the same things.
The way they were doing it.
And so people were always telling you what you're missing out on and what your kids should be doing. So yeah, that was my biggest thing. And I had a lot of sleepless nights, spent a lot of hours scouring the internet, because we had internet by then, to figure out what I possibly could be missing and what I could do better.
Okay.
Yeah. And that remained with me, that underlying anxiety remained with me until my oldest daughter took her first college entrance exam, and she rocked it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I thought, like, you know, if you can rock that, the ACT or the SAT
from
then,
homeschooling,
then you got it, right? So she was able to get into her college of her choice. And
good.
After that, it was smooth sailing.
All right. Well,
yeah,
that's awesome, because that's what it's about. So it sounds to me like you were being gutsy, even though you didn't feel like you were being gutsy,
right?
Because you were following your own gut, that you felt you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And even with all that negativity, judgment, naysayers, you still continued forward doing what felt right to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is a big challenge. And where are the girls now? What are the girls doing now?
So 3 of the girls went to college and graduated with honors. One of them at the top of their class in engineering.
Okay.
And so one of my daughters is working for NASA. She's a flight controller for the International Space Station.
Nice.
Another one is working at Los Alamos National Lab.
Okay.
Another one is a buyer for a farm and ranch supply store here in town.
Okay.
I didn't want to name it. And the other one is just happily chugging along with her own little dreams.
And traveling. She travels quite a bit.
She does.
So all the girls seem to be well-rounded.
Very well-rounded.
They're musicians, singing, athletes, smart, engineering, and so forth. And they all have their lives all around the country, right?
Yeah, yes.
2 are here in Bozeman.
2 in Bozeman, 1 in New Mexico, and 1 in Alabama.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Because you followed your gut. You did what you felt was right. And you did the extra research, and you pushed back with all the naysayers.
Yes, yes.
Good for you. Yeah, awesome. advice would you have for the viewers if any of them resonate with you on this?
So my advice is pretty simple. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to catch everything. You're going to outright fail sometimes, but it's okay. Just stick to your plan. Keep following that instinct, that thing that you know is true, and be in it for the long haul. It'll work out.
Be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Be all in.
Be all in.
It's a beautiful morning in Bryce Canyon National Park, Utah, and I am headed right now toward Rainbow Viewpoint. Made it to Rainbow Point in Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah. It's southern Utah. And look at the pinnacles and the spirals and the red rock. Isn't that gorgeous? Thanks for watching our Gutsy Travels episode in Bozeman, Montana with Michelle Dornath-Mohr. As you heard, she did something really gutsy decades ago, and that was homeschooling. Also, she did it in 3 different states. Now, all of those states, it was legal at that time, but not all the states in America had homeschooling as legal. Now, nowadays, it is very normal for people all over the country to be homeschooled, to do homeschooling. But at the time, Michelle was really gutsy because a lot of people were judging her as to why she was doing the homeschooling and why she wasn't following the norm. Well, she followed her gut. She utilized her engineering degrees and her smarts to educate her 4 girls. How about you? What is something that you want to do, but maybe a little afraid of some judgment? Don't be. Push through. Do the research. Make a plan, and then follow that plan, just like Michelle did. You can do it too. Are you wondering, like so many people, where am I going next? Nah. I'm not going to tell you. Just watch, subscribe below, click the bell so that you'll get the notification of when our next episode is launched, which is always on a Monday, so that you can see where in the country we are now and who we are interviewing next. So, in the meantime, be focused, be kind while you're doing it, and be gutsy. See you next time. And behind me is Bryce Canyon and Inspiration Point.